You are more than you think you are. Do you realize that? You are really more than you think you are. And here's what I want you to do. Think about something that you would do now in your midlife, and I'm assuming all of us here are in our midlife time. What would you do in your midlife if you were not afraid? You don't have to write it down, just think about it, because later on I may ask you to share. What would you do in your midlife if you were not afraid? Okay. I'm a midlifer, as you can tell, but here's my story. My story is this. I'm not going to tell all the figures, but when my daughter was 12, so you can do the math. When my daughter was 12, she took a class at Freedom Theater. And we were all excited about going to see Monique dressed up in her costume to do her first monologue. When we got to Freedom Theater, my whole family was with us. And parents were all over in the audience, and everybody was thrilled, couldn't wait to see their children perform. Of course, I was one of them. When Monique got on the stage, she did her monologue, and she was beautiful. And we all clapped, all excited. And then when the children finished, the adult acting class came on. And while I was looking on stage, I saw this beautiful woman come on, and she recited a poem called, Who Am I? While sitting there listening to her recite this poem, Who Am I? Tears started forming in my eyes, and I got real misty. And my best friend and my cousin, everybody looked, well, what is wrong with you? Monique just performed, and what are you getting so emotional about? Well, I had a huge aha moment, a huge revelation that I knew there was more to me than my roles that I was experiencing. I was going through a difficult divorce, challenging work time, raising 2 children alone. Her poem, Who Am I?, resonated with me. I knew I was a mother, a wife, a sister, a friend, but this voice kept saying to me, but there's more to me than I know. That started my journey, my archaeological dig to discover or rediscover who I am. What does authenticity really mean? Well, first of all, before we talk about that, let's figure out what inauthenticity means. You know that's not such a word. But Karen Wright, in her article, Being Authentic in Psychology Today, describes inauthenticity, a vague feeling of dissatisfaction. So here's what I want to ask you. Share with me now. We're all in midlife. What does inauthenticity mean to you? She says it's a vague feeling of dissatisfaction in midlife. What do you think it means? Anybody want to share? You can. You can share. Anybody want to? What is inauthentic? A vague feeling.
Operating outside your core values and you know it.
Bingo. Thank you, Suzanne. Yes, operating outside of your core values. It's like being in a square peg in a round hole. It's like acting according to other fixed values that people have about you, but that's not really who you are. I call being inauthentic having this vague feeling on my shoulder, this voice saying, you know that's not you, but you don't know what to do about it. Doing things that are not indicative of who you are, that's what she means by inauthentic. She also says that it's like in midlife, it's a crisis. I don't believe in the word crisis. To me, midlife is not a crisis if you know who you are. I really, truly believe that. So inauthenticity is walking down this road in midlife and you see, I'm not supposed to be going there. A girlfriend of mine, we went to lunch and she said, okay, Barbara, We got 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, all we're going to talk about are medications, what surgeries we had, doctor's appointments, and then we're done, okay? And I started laughing. I said, how did you know? She said, because we always do that as we're growing in midlife. She says, nothing wrong with talking about our physical issues, but that's not who we are. So what is authenticity? What is it? We know what being inauthentic is not. Authentic living is this. The only way I can describe it is through poetry and through authors with quotations. So let me give you 2 quotes. Here's one I love. Authenticity means being the first-rate version of yourself than the second-rate version of somebody else. I love that. You'll never guess who said that. Judy Garland. Yeah, Judy Garland was her quote. Here's another quote by a poet and an author. She says, being authentic is living a truthful life. Not doing the work you hate, but doing the work you love. Being truthful to yourself. That's authenticity. That was written by Grace Paley, who's an author and a poet. And I love that. So what did you do, Barbara, to figure out who you are? What did you do when you left Freedom Theater? I made up stuff. I read Wayne Dwyer's book and I said, well, now what do I do? And this is what I made up. I call them fantastic tips. I have 15 of them now. But here's one. For some reason, I was sitting at home and I said, you know, who knows me real well, or who knew me real well? And literally, I called up 6 friends from high school. And I called them each. I hadn't talked to them in maybe 12 years. And I said, we're having a mini reunion, just a group of us, and I'd like for us to go out to dinner. I didn't tell them why. And they were so excited. They said, of course. And you know you got to feed people when you're gathering these things. So we all went to Jezebel's, which is a great restaurant in New York. So we're all sitting around at this table, and I popped the question. I said, tell me, what was I doing in high school that looked like I was doing it because I loved it? But most of all, I told them, it looks like I'm doing it with little or no effort. And it was really amazing to me. Guess what they said? They said, well, that's easy. They said, you always love to be in those corny plays like Meet Me in St. Louis, Oklahoma, My Fair Lady. I couldn't believe I cracked up laughing. They said, don't you remember you threatened us if we didn't come see you? And I sat there and I thought about it. I said, I do remember. And you know what I thought about, which people do ask me, well, how come you forgot? Well, why did I forget? What do you think? Why didn't I know then what they remembered? What do you think? Life.
Got in the way.
Life. So I pushed that aside, that memory, to be a wife, a mother, a teacher, but that was on hold. Now here's what's interesting. I love this quote, and you'll see why. And then we are going to share some ahas. Everybody's like, okay. Here's a quote I love. You got to say no to the things and people that are not serving you if you want to rediscover or discover ourselves. I love that quote. That's by Dr. Barbara DeAngelis. And what I did with that clue was terrifying. The word courage is huge. What do you think I did? That was a clue that I like to be on stage, I like to sing, and my journey was to discover something that comes easy to me and have some fun in midlife. Remember, I was in midlife, so it was terrifying to do what? To switch gears. But I was planning while I was working. I didn't quit a job. I actually designed this purposely so that when I was in early retirement, I would be doing what I love to do. I went to hear Dr. Maya Angelou speak, and we all know how regal she is. I love to hear her speak. I've read her books, and I had an opportunity to go hear her speak with 800 women in the auditorium. It was huge. She gets up to the lectern and she says, "Welcome." And as she begins talking, you know, all ears, you're sitting on the edge of your seat with her wisdom. And out of the corner of her eye, this man comes creeping to the lectern like this. And he starts fingering with the lectern. And he sneaks up, and you can see her looking down. And she says to him, and you know, we all stop breathing. Everybody, ah, what is he doing? She looks down and she says, "What are you doing?" And we're like, oh my God. And he didn't expect that. And he looked up and he said, "I'm recording you." And then we had another gasp. And she looked down, she says, "That's not in my contract. You can't do," in the middle of a presentation. She said, "That's not in my contract. You are not allowed to do that. And I want you to stop." Well, we almost passed out. We said, oh my God. So he immediately walks back very quietly, and all the women are looking at him. She didn't miss a beat. When she looked down, she looked up at us. And she said, "No, no, 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 no." She must have said no about 10 times. And the point she was trying to use to us, your voice is important. Don't allow people to do something to you that is not part of who you are. And I strongly believe that we're missing in midlife a wonderful opportunity. Knowing who we are. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.